There couldn't be a better time for this book, seriously. The name of the book is The Resurrection of the Roman Catholic Church, a guide to the traditional Catholic community. Griff Ruby wrote this book, and you think about where we are right now in our history, and you think about Catholicism. So we are very happy he's joining us here on Author's Corner on America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney. Thanks for coming on, Griff. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the inspiration for you in writing this book. What made you write the book? What was the motivation?
The motivation was, let's back up just a tiny bit because
Sure.
I'd been looking for what I wanted, what I was going to believe in, and what I wanted to believe, and so forth. So I'd gone through a variety of different religions that have taken me on this long and rather crookedy, long and winding road, so to speak, from being raised without a religion to the point where I discovered that I wanted to be Catholic. And even then, I thought I'd found it, but I had to arrive there. And even though it was very arch conservative, I still was kind of looking around saying, I think so. But when I came across the real thing, it was like, this was it. I found it. This is it. And this lady, who had been a nun, and I guess maybe still kind of thought of herself as a nun, um, suggested that I should come see this church she had up in Spokane. That's I'm California, you know where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
because Lompoc, and
Mm-hmm.
Spokane, Washington's a bit of a drive from here. So anyway, I came up and I saw the place, and it was really incredible, and I just was amazed about all these, the whole people, the community, the priests. They kept it all there. It was all alive, all of what was supposed to be there. And I wanted to know more about these people. Where had they been? How does it even work? 'Cause, I mean, the church is kind of normally run kind of a, from the top down sort of a thing. That's the nature of the church. And yet here we are. Well, there isn't exactly a living top at this point, which is, we just say, really, nobody functions in the role of a pope. Not really and truly. You can call somebody a pope, but that doesn't mean they're really an actual successor of Peter. And so that's what we've been enduring all this time. But I saw this community, and I wanted to know more about it. And what I would have loved would have been a book like, well, what this resurrection book, in fact, is. Something that will take the reader by the hand, explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, why it matters, who we are, and then finally start telling the saga of the actual history of the people who have kept the faith alive during this time that we have been, in this very strange post-Vatican II era. So I dug and I dug and I researched until my knowledge was pretty much about encyclopedic, and I finally realized I can write that book myself now, and I did, and there it is.
And it is like a book that was never created until you put it together and put all that history. And the history is not just limited to the U.S. I mean, you talk about the U.S., of course, Mexico, Brazil, France, Vietnam, just wow. And you
Yeah.
know about those places, right? So that's part of what I think led you in that direction.
Well, the church is a totally international body. It isn't just, some churches have their start in a very specific place. I mean, the Anglican obviously started in England, the Lutheran obviously started in Germany. The Mormon church, well, there's one that started in America, and I can think of a few other American churches. But this is not about, any particular country. This is about the one real kingdom that counts as far as we Catholics are concerned, which is to say, the kingdom of God.
Yeah, so for you, going so deep into this and choosing it too, and wanting to know more, what was probably the most challenging part about writing the book? What was the most challenging part of that?
Well, the challenging parts, let's just say writing it was kind of an unequal work. So some chapters I had a real dearth of material, and I was writing my first draft of the chapter on Archbishop Thuk. What I had was very skimpy and almost all of it very hostile to him, and it really kind of forced me to kind of have to stretch and pull and conjecture a little bit and still not get it right, obviously. Later on, the further history would turn up, and it's one of the reasons for my revision of the book in 2019, because I had finally picked up a lot of additional material. I could now flesh it out with real facts rather than just me trying to guess. And I talk about why I make some changes in my afterword for those who get the print version of my book, print or electronic. It won't be in the audio book. At any rate, so I wanted to get this, but there were some chapters where there was so much material. The other books have been written about traditional Catholicism and why it is important and how it differs from what you get at your normal Saint Miscellaneous's, what I call the Novus Ordo, new order, which is, oh, it's going to be a new order. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I stick with the one Christ established, and that's what makes us what we are. And there, what are the differences? It's not just, Latin versus English. There's a whole lot more going on, a whole atmosphere difference, a whole spirit. And so there's a lot of books drilling into details and details and details about all of this. I mean, you could write a whole encyclopedia just on that alone. And I had to take all that material and compress it down to one chapter, which is my chapter 4, and it still ended up being pretty long, and that really had to compress a lot down really tightly. So that's kind of interesting how some parts of it, other parts just kind of pace themselves reasonably and naturally enough, and that wasn't an issue. But that probably the one busiest chapter that I had to somehow explain an awful lot in a very limited space, because I'm trying to get something that the ordinary Joe six-pack or a man in the street who, not only has a soul to save but a family to feed, somebody like that may not know anything about all this. What is it? How do you start it up? How do you explain it? Oh, that was my goal in writing that, introducing why it is and the wherefores and all that, and then moving over to the actual historical personages and people and movements and groups, communities and schools of thought and everything else.
The book is definitely like no other book out there. When people read The Resurrection of the Roman Catholic Church, A Guide to Traditional Catholic Community, and as you say, it's been revised, what do you hope they take away? What do you hope people take away? And you're really saying it and weaving it into this conversation.
I'm hoping that I think the best takeaway would be that we should seek out that church. It's not easy to find because there's not a whole lot. I mean, there could probably be, maybe a million or so of us, but scattered around the whole world. That actually makes it pretty thin in any particular location, other than a few of the particular places where there's significant hubs for traditional Catholicism. Okay, Washington is one of them. There's another 30 miles down the road at Post Falls, Idaho. And then there's others in such places as St. Mary's, Kansas, and other places. Anyway, and I write about some of these different places in my book too. So the thing about it is, apart from these hubs, it's very hard to find very much, and maybe it might just be some priest comes to the town once a month. Lompoc is that way. There's no normal church or anything like that in the normal sense of the word, but a priest comes up to town about once a month. And that's what Lompoc traditional Catholics have to work with unless they want to drive several hundred miles to church.
Right, exactly.
I want people to find that, to make the pilgrimage, because I can describe this, I can say what it is and why it is, but there's nothing like being surrounded by it. And the Catholic Church is a very in-person, personal, contact-based faith where you have to be everything, even the whole way the church is set up. You receive communion from the priest who gives it to you directly. You can't do that through a phone connection. You get baptized because they pour water on you, and not just you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's all very contact. Every bishop, every priest was laid on hands on by another bishop and priest, by another bishop before him.
Exactly.
Oh,
And I want to tell everybody that they can get the book Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but they can also go to your website, the-pope.com. And there's even a button. You can click on the button and there's more information that's really fascinating there for sure.
uh,
Such a good
that's my
time.
old site.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's
wow, you
a,
found my old site.
do you have another site?
It's got a lot of neat stuff on there too. Yes, it
Yeah.
does. But one of the things that's, we're trying to put together right now, and I think we already have it, is the website dedicated specifically to my current publications, which is still the Resurrection and also a couple of Seti Vacante volumes, and it's called Mr. Ubi Petrus, MrUbiPetrus.com. Mr. Ubi Petrus, because Ubi Petrus is just Ubi where Petrus, where Peter is. And I just decided to call myself Mr. because that's my key interest is, so where is Peter today?
Yeah, exactly.
Where do we
Where?
find the voice of Peter? But it's
Exactly.
also, and as you know, the .com part is also where my channel on YouTube is. So there's a lot of talks that I give there and try to have interviews there. I have a number of them there already and get some more soon. So that's what we've got going. That makes me pretty easy to find, and well,
Perfect.
anyway, that's what we got now.
Perfect. We'll tell people to go there for sure. Griff Ruby, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks again for this interview.